When it comes to female villains, there are a lot out there. But what really makes them powerful? What makes them memorable? Well, there's a lot of scale when we're talking about power with these characters, and we're gonna get into that on this list. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda, and today we'll be counting down the top 10 most powerful female villains. And trust me, there's a lot, so if there are some that I didn't include on this list, let me know about them in the comments. Number 10, White Rabbit. While White Rabbit hasn't done that much yet, she was recently announced as the main villain for the first arc of the new Batman and Robin book, so evidently she must have some pretty big power to be playing a role as the main baddie there. And not just any main baddie, by the way, the first one in this story. Typically in comics, the first villain to appear also tends to help define the focus of the entire story, and often are defeated at the beginning only to come back even bigger, badder, and stronger by the end. Not always, but you know, this is pretty common, I find, when it comes to my experience reading comics, so this could be one of the scenarios that we're gonna see here. When White Rabbit first appeared, she introduced herself as the girl that got away, and was established as a pretty slippery character who had the power to be in two places at once, enjoying taunting and tormenting Batman, all while actually dating Bruce Wayne, who I don't believe she actually knew was Batman, but still, that's pretty crazy. Her White Rabbit persona seems more interested in the Bats, while her Jaina Hudson persona seems more interested in Bruce, which makes for an interesting dynamic when it comes to how she relates to the character of the Dark Knight, being herself kind of two different people. I mean, literally two different people. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love when we talk about powerful female characters, be sure to go check out our most powerful playlist. Number 9, Lady Bullseye. Man, Lady Bullseye. For a female version of a male villain, she's actually surprisingly cool, I gotta say. Like her male counterpart, Lady Bullseye is also a master of accuracy, being able to hit just about any target with just about any projectile. She was actually inspired by Bullseye herself to become a villain after he incidentally, though not really intentionally, saved her at a young age. Lady Bullseye was created by the fantastic creative team of Ed Brubaker and Clay Mann, and is a more modern comic book creation, first appearing in Daredevil issue number 11 from 2008. Number 8, Captain Phasma. Man, I love Captain Phasma. I feel so like I was robbed of just getting all of the Captain Phasma stuff and backstories, and there's so much good stuff about her. While Captain Phasma may have been shafted in the Star Wars films, I know she has some pretty great comics to her name, which are being produced over at Marvel Comics as part of their Star Wars division, or that have been, I guess I should say. So in that regard, she definitely counts as a female comic book villain, while also happening to be a Star Wars villain as well, so just bonus. Phasma's own origin story shows how strong and determined she is as a character. Much of what we know from this story actually comes from the novel about her that was based on sort of her origin story titled Phasma. Here it's established that Phasma grew up on Parnassos, a world ravaged by nuclear calamity. Phasma helped to organize the death of her own clan, including her parents, to ensure her brother and herself survived, even going so far as to fake a threat to his life by herself stabbing him in the foot and then pushing him down a cave. When Phasma first met with the First Order, she was enamored by their resources, their wealth, and their power, and saw in them a way to rise up herself. When her brother Keldo refused to help her in aiding the First Order, she even turned on him, killing him and leaving with a few of the best warriors to join with the dark side. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. She's just like, I'm just gonna get rid of this entire family, go do my own thing. Number 7, Enchantress. Enchantress over at DC Comics is kind of a 2-for-1 deal. I feel like I got a lot of characters actually on here that are kind of 2-for-1 deals. June Moon makes up her civilian persona, a totally different person actually, while Enchantress is the dark witch that is her superpowered villain persona. The two became attached years ago and have not been able to be separated since. In the film Suicide Squad, Moon, played by Cara Delevingne, was an archaeologist, but in the comics, June Moon is actually an artist, making her possession by the entity known as the Succubus even more disturbing and strange. Enchantress first appeared all the way back in the 60s, created by Bob Haney and Howard Purcell, making her first appearance in Strange Adventures issue 187. Number 6, Star Sapphire. Star Sapphire is often known for being the rival of Green Lantern. She is Carol Ferris, initially Hal Jordan's love interest turned his villain, who also was often still kinda his love interest. She herself becomes a Lantern, but just not of the green variety, instead becoming a Violet Lantern, joining the Star Sapphires, or if you prefer, the Violet Lantern Corps. The violet spectrum of emotion and light actually rules over love, longing, lust, so I think you can imagine what kind of power Carol holds both over Hal and, you know, any others who happen to fall into her path. I also love the idea that someone wielding love can be just as deadly as someone like a Red Lantern or a Green Lantern who wield the power of rage or willpower respectively. Number 5, Grail. Grail is the powerful daughter of Darkseid and the Amazonian assassin Myrna. Being that she is both Amazonian by birth and also a new god, she is extremely powerful. She also has been shown to possess magical abilities as well that even allow her to have some power over life and death, successfully bringing back her father Darkseid after he died. Initially though, Grail was actually born with her mother's hope that Grail would one day be the key to defeating Darkseid. However, there was also a prophecy that Grail would one day cause great destruction, with the knowledge putting her in danger shortly after she was born. With this knowledge putting her in danger shortly after she was born. Her mother Myrna gave birth to Grail at the same time that actually Princess Diana was born to Hippolyta. Together, Myrna and her newborn were two of the first Amazons to actually leave Themyscira. Eventually, the prophecy connected to Grail would come true, with her teaming up with the Anti-Monitor initially in an attempt to defeat her father, Darkseid. I think you can imagine that. That would be pretty destructive. Number 4. Moonstone. Carla Sofin is Moonstone. She started out as a brilliant but evil psychiatrist who actually used her skills and knowledge to manipulate, get this, her own patients. That is definitely not good. That's some villain stuff right there. She became the protege of Dr. Faustus, continuing to develop her manipulative skills and her nature. Eventually, she managed to persuade the original Moonstone, Lloyd Bloch, into handing over the alien gem that gave him his powers. She used it to become a superpowered villain in her own right, and has often been known for her conflict with Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel, and then of course later Captain Marvel, which came more to a head during her time on Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers team. Number 3. Umar. Umar is the sister of the famous Dormammu, although sadly I feel like not a lot of people talk about Umar. We all talk about Dormammu, but what about Umar? She's there too, she's super cool. Like her brother, she is also an extremely powerful being and hails from the Dark Dimension, although she too is a member of the Faltine, so they're actually not native to the Dark Dimension, but simply infiltrated it and then ended up conquering it, with Dormammu becoming its ruler, but really only because the fight to actually win it and also trap the mindless ones had left Umar in a weakened state, so that's why her brother rules and not her. Umar and Dormammu are both members of the Faltine, a race of beings known to be extremely powerful energy-based beings that are basically made up of pure magic. Doesn't get more magical than that. Number 2. Hela. Hela is the daughter of Loki in the Marvel Universe, or at least in the comic book main continuity universe of Earth 616, although most people know her as Thor and Loki's secret sister in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But in the comics, this is actually not how she's connected to the family. Inherently, Hela mythologically was not necessarily, but her being a goddess of death basically is what makes her bad, at least in the comic book universe. Just her attachment to that part of the life cycle, as well as her connection to the underworld, as well as the fact that, you know, she's Loki's daughter. As a ruler of Hell, Hela is granted full immortality, even beyond what a normal Asgardian would have, which, in case you didn't know, they're actually not technically immortal. Hela can also make almost anyone age rapidly, including people that are actually Asgardians, or also render anyone immortal if she so chooses. She can take your life away, or she can give you endless life. Number 1. Circe. Circe is one of my all-time favorite villains from the DC universe. She's an immensely powerful and ancient witch who often opposes the DC hero Wonder Woman. At one point in DC Comics, Circe was able to take within herself all the magical power and abilities of Hecate, or Hecate if you prefer, making her one of the most powerful magical forces in the world after Hecate fell. Fortunately, the Justice League Dark were able to stop her, but for a moment there, and even after the conflict was resolved actually, she became pretty insanely powerful. I gotta say, I was like, I don't even know how they're gonna get out of this one, and then they somehow managed to do it. Well friends, that's about all the time we have for this list, but hopefully I get to talk to you about some more powerful female villains, because there's a lot more I want to talk about. Until then though, you stay nerdy, YouTube.